If you're a fan of giant robots, tactical battles, and games like Armored Core, then there's a new indie game you might want to keep an eye on. Ironwing Valiant, Record of Astera, is a game that honestly came out of nowhere for a lot of people. When you first see it, the comparisons are almost impossible to avoid. Some people see Armored Core, some people see Valkyria Chronicles, and after playing the current playtest, I can understand why those comparisons are being made. But the interesting thing about Ironwing Valiant is that it isn't just trying to be one of those games, it's taking the ideas from different genres and mixing them together into something that feels pretty unique. Now, before we get into everything, keep in mind this is a playtest. This isn't the finished version of the game. So there are things here that still need work, but the important thing with any early build is whether the foundation is there. And after spending time with Ironwing Valiant, I think the foundation is definitely interesting. The first thing that stands out is the art style. When you think of a mech game, you normally imagine a dark, futuristic world. Huge cities, metal everywhere, machines fighting across ruined planets. Ironwing Valiant goes in a completely different direction. The world has a much more colourful and almost painted look to it. You have landscapes that feel closer to a fantasy adventure game, with villages, fields and open areas. Then you have these huge machines of war moving through those environments. That contrast is probably one of the biggest things that makes this game stand out. Seeing a massive mech fighting in a world that looks almost peaceful creates a really cool visual style. It gives Ironwing Valiant an identity, instead of just looking like another sci-fi action game, and that is something indie games really need. Because with so many games releasing every month, having something that people remember after watching a few seconds of gameplay is important. Then you get into the actual gameplay, and this is where the Armored Core comparisons start making sense. The moment you start moving around the battlefield, you can feel the inspiration. Your machine has weight, but it still feels mobile, and you're boosting around enemies, avoiding incoming attacks, finding openings, switching between different ways of attacking. The combat is built around constantly moving and reacting. You're not standing still behind cover waiting for enemies to come to you. The battlefield is always changing. You need to pay attention to what's happening around you, because getting caught out in the wrong position can quickly turn a fight against you. One thing I like about the combat is that it understands what makes mech games fun. It's not just about having a big robot, it's about feeling like you're controlling something powerful. When you move, it feels like you're piloting a machine rather than controlling a normal character. Every attack feels like it has impact, every movement feels deliberate. That feeling is one of the hardest things for mech games to get right. Some games make robots feel too slow, others make them feel like characters wearing armor. Ironwing Valiant seems to be aiming for that middle ground. You have the power of a giant machine, but you still have enough speed and control to make fights exciting. The tactical side is also something that helps separate it from a straight action game. The battles aren't just about rushing in and shooting everything. You have to think about your approach, where enemies are positioned, when to attack, when to move, when to play more defensively. It gives fights a bit more strategy compared to some other mech games. Another thing that people have noticed is the Valkyria Chronicles influence. And yeah, you can definitely see it. The presentation, the visual style, and some of the overall design choices clearly take inspiration from that series. For fans who have been waiting for something with a similar feeling, that is probably a big reason why this game has caught attention. At the same time, some people will probably want to see Ironwing Valiant create more of its own identity as development continues. Taking inspiration from other games isn't a bad thing. A lot of great games are built by looking at what came before and adding something new. The important part is whether the final game has enough of its own ideas. And right now, the potential is there. Of course, being a playtest, there are areas where the game still feels unfinished. Some animations could use more polish. Certain effects don't always have the impact you would expect. The UI and presentation could be improved, but that's normal for a game at this stage. The question isn't whether everything is perfect right now, the question is whether you can see the potential underneath. And I think a lot of players who have tried this build are seeing that, because even with the rough edges, the main gameplay loop is already fun. There is something satisfying about jumping into a mission, controlling a giant machine, and seeing how the game handles those big battles. The biggest thing Ironwing Valiant has going for it is that it feels like a passion project. You can tell the developers understand why people love mech games. They understand that the appeal isn't just explosions and giant robots, it's the feeling of being inside one of those machines. It's the weight, the movement, the strategy, the feeling that every fight is a battle between machines rather than just characters with different weapons. Right now, I think Ironwing Valiant is a game worth watching. It's not finished. There are still plenty of things we haven't seen yet, but the playtest shows that there is a solid foundation here. For fans who enjoyed Armored Core, missed Valkyria Chronicles, or just want another game with giant robots, this could be one to keep on your radar. Sometimes the most interesting games aren't the ones with massive marketing campaigns. Sometimes they're the ones that appear quietly and slowly build a community around them. Ironwing Valiant feels like it could be one of those games. But what do you think? After seeing the gameplay, does Ironwing Valiant look like a game you would play? Or do you think it needs to do more to stand out? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoy finding hidden games before they become popular, make sure to subscribe because I'll be covering more upcoming games like this. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one.